Welcome back to the Mintner Method. I'm your host, Andrew Mintner, and on today's episode, we're going to dive into the Week 5 matchup between Army and Tulsa. This was a matchup that was suggested by a subscriber, and I already had it on my list of games I wanted to look at simply because Army fits the bill for the trend that we are following, which is early down EPA rankings or early down EPA defensive rankings. So in this matchup, Army opens as a 10.5 point favorite. So keep that in the back of your mind as we are breaking this down throughout. So as always, when it comes to the academy teams, Army, they have like a high EPA here when it comes to passing. That's not part of the handicap. That's not something we're going to look into. That is, if they do really well passing the ball, we're not going to sit here and act like we were going to predict that because, that's just nonsense. They are only passing the ball on first and second down 10% of the time. That is dead last in all of college football. No shock here. So they're rushing it upwards of 90% of the time. And they're ranking fourth in early down EPA rushing, which gives them the sixth overall ranking. Now, when we look at Tulsa, a lot of their weight to being unsuccessful on early downs defensively is towards the pass. Now, they are, 44th in early down rush EPA. So they are a little more equipped when it comes to an advanced statistic side of the ball from a defensive rushing standpoint. That needs to be noted as we're diving further into this. This is not going to be the matchup we had last week against Temple where they just dominated them from start to finish. So when we look at the offensive side of the ball, Tulsa is just average. They're average across the board on early downs, 72nd in pass, 76th in rushing, 78th overall. Now, Army is really good against the run and decent against the pass. Again, though, we have to take all academy defenses with a grain of salt simply because, if the offenses are doing their job, the academy defenses are more fresh. They're playing infinitely less time on the field. So the opportunities are, they're going to be shrunk, essentially. So you have to keep that in mind. Also, that is never going to be part of the cap. The Academy's defense, it just has to be serviceable. No pun intended. Because that's really all they need. They need an average defense, and they'll be successful. That's how it's always been since the beginning of time. Now, when we look at the advanced metrics here, we're looking at essentially all the things that Army does well, right? They are not explosive overall, which is fine. That's not really ever expected from these types of teams. It's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, death of 1,000 cuts type stuff. But when it comes to the advanced metrics for running the ball, first overall in stuff rate, offensive line yards, front seven havoc allowed, rush predicted points per attempt or efficiency, 51st in rushing explosiveness. They check all the boxes. They're the best at all those things. They're elite level. Now, when we look at Tulsa, you might look at this red here and be like, oh, well, they're terrible. Well, in reality, they're actually pretty decent against the run. 9th in stuff rate, 20th in defensive line yards, 28th in front seven havoc, 35th in rush efficiency. They do give up some explosive plays, rushing the ball, but they're decent. Decent enough. And so the thing that is more into the handicap is we need to see if their offense is going to be the type of offense that really dictates the script in this game. So when you're facing academy teams, you need an offense that's explosive, that can score quickly, that can change the environment. Because if Army gets into an environment of comfort where they get to dictate the pace of this game and the script, they're just going to dominate. That's just like any academy team and any game they've ever played. So, as we're looking here, like I told you, Army's defense is not elite by any means, okay? But this type of offense that Tulsa has is average, a little above average in certain areas. But overall, 100th in rushing efficiency, 83rd in passing efficiency. They're not super explosive. They're just, they're just an offense. And so when I look at the schedule overall, Tulsa here, let me pull them up real quick. They've played a decent schedule so far. Arkansas State, Oklahoma State, they just got shellacked by North Texas. They're not, this also is not a team that's expected to be fantastical this year, right? And when we look at the flip side of that, on the Army side, they just, they've had tailor-made matchups. And we've covered, this will be our third episode. We covered Rice, we covered Temple, and those defenses were just horrendous. And Army checked all the boxes in those matchups that they needed to check. Now, one thing I want to show you is just because Tulsa is good against the run does not mean that they are going to be good against the triple option. And the reason is, if you don't play this type of offense regularly, or at least once a year, that where you're used to seeing it, it can be tough to prepare for, especially in just a week's time. Also, Army is going to have an extra 2 days to prepare. That's not a gigantic deal in the collegiate sphere, but it is a big deal when we're looking at these type of matchups, right? And I want to show you, just kind of the record that Tulsa has the last time they played, a team like this. Now, obviously, that has nothing to do with this, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this game in 2022 is the main reason that Army is going to win this game. No, it's just to give you some insight to why I'm telling you, if you don't play these type of teams regularly, they're hard to defend. And because they're hard to defend, it can be a long day. So as you can see, they did not play any academy teams in 2023, right? In 2022, they played Navy, and my God, it was hard to watch. Now let's just go look at that shellacking, and you can see that Navy ran for an absurd 455 yards on 69 attempts. Now, obviously, one of those things does not have anything to do with this, right? And we'll go through here and we'll see again, they lost the Navy the year before that in 2021. So they have a little bit of experience when it comes to facing these type of teams. But it hasn't been good experience, and they haven't faced, in 2 years now it will be that they faced an academy team. So, in my opinion, this Army team has excelled in the competition that they've played. And my point with that is, I'll give you a prime example, okay? Air Force here, horrendous so far. And you'd be like, well, Andrew, they must have played a very tough team, right? Very tough teams. Their schedule must be off the charts, insanely tough. It is not. They played Merrimack, San Jose State, Baylor, and Wyoming. And so when I see teams that have done really well against, soft competition, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to. And when I see that from an academy team, that gives me a lot of hope, because that means that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do against the teams that they're exactly supposed to do it against. And when they face, teams that might be a little more formidable, they actually have the chance to excel against them. Whereas if they were average against those below average teams, then they're going to struggle against teams that are better equipped to defend their offense. Sorry, that was long-winded, and I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but that's just the reality of the situation. So I am going to lean into Army minus 10.5. I think the line is a little high. I wish it was 9, but we're just not going to get that off of these type of performances from Army in the last 3 weeks. Now, I am leaning into this mainly for 2 reasons. The the trend that we are following here with the early down success rate. And then I believe that, Tulsa just is not equipped, to counter this type of team. And that's been proven in the past. And that is kind of, the proof is in the pudding this year exactly. So that's going to be it for today's video, today's episode. As always, if you like the content, please, subscribe, comment, like the video, share it with someone else. Obviously, this is an extremely small channel, but I am very excited. We've grown like exponentially in just a couple of weeks, so that's really awesome. If you have any like games you want to be covered, you can always comment in the video. I read all the comments. I try to get back to every single one of them that I can. And if you comment early enough in the week, I can add it to my list of stuff I'm going to cover. And it can make the list essentially. But other than that, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.